Welcome to Spoonful of Strength, a podcast for people with chronic illness and the ones who love them.
The compassion that you guys have really shines through.
Rachel and Tina cultivate a sense of comfort.
It was such a rewarding experience.
They were great hosts.
It was amazing. You are so kind.
Spoonful of Strength has given us this great platform.
They were so welcoming.
Here are your hosts, Rachel and Tina.
Welcome to Spoonful of Strength. If you haven't joined us before, my name is Rachel, and I have several chronic illnesses, and I'm joined today by my sister-in-law here, Tina. Say hello.
Hello.
And Tina is a stage 4 cancer survivor, as well as dealing with some chronic conditions, including fibromyalgia. And we are here to talk about the holidays, and we are just a few weeks away from Christmas. And so we're going to talk about managing the holidays with chronic illness. So how have you been doing, Tina? I know you've been having some back issues. How is that going?
Not good, but thankfully I do have another injection scheduled coming up on the 2nd, which by the time this airs, this will be released the day after I finally get my injection. So I'm really hoping that this is the first time I did this. Those that were following us, our listeners, during season 1, I was going through PT. I was released through PT. Everything was doing better. I re-injured it about 3 weeks ago yesterday. And this time it's in fact impacting the sciatic nerve. So, oh my gosh, it's like I've never had so much pain that no pain meds are just, nothing seems to be cutting through it. So I'm just trying to manage it the best I can to find a little bit of relief. So I'm hopeful that the nerve block will work and will kick in fast.
That's helped you in the past, right?
It has some. Yeah, it took a little longer. Like from what I was reading, usually it's a couple days before you start feeling relief. But for me, it took about a good week before I really started noticing a difference. So, but hopefully it won't be quite that long. But it's already been 3 weeks, so at this point, what's another couple?
Yeah. Yeah.
And December is sneaking up on us, because I remember when I saw them this past Monday to get it scheduled, they're like, oh, the soonest we can get you in is December 2nd. And I'm like, I have to wait that long? And I looked at my calendar. I'm like, oh, wait, that's only 2 weeks away. So
yeah, the holidays,
but it seemed like it was forever. I know. Yeah. So how about you? How have you been feeling?
I had a busy week this last week. I had 4 appointments in 4 days, and I had my yearly MRI on Wednesday, which was a horrible experience. I went to a place that was closer to my house, and normally I go in for an MRI and they put like earbuds on you or headphones so you can listen to music. They didn't have any headphones, so all they gave me were like the earplugs. And so I got a little bit of anxiety because I was like, it's hard. And it was a 2-hour MRI. And it was crazy because I got in there and, she was like, do you have any earrings in? Do you have this? Do you have that? And we went through everything. They did the scan of my brain, and then they also had to do the neck. They started doing the neck, and I started feeling these weird pain pulses in my wrist and realized my watch was on. And
oh no.
So I rip it off and I'm trying to just chuck it out the MRI machine. And it keeps coming back. It keeps landing on my chest. No. And I'm like, am I upside down or something? But I think it was the magnetic pole or whatever.
Oh.
It took me 3 or 4 times of tossing it out. I finally got it in between right above my knees. So I was like clenching my legs to hold it there until she came back to do the contrast. And
oh my gosh.
It was so bad though. I got the report, although I don't, me reading it, I'm not sure 100%, but it looks like there might be some extra lesions in the brain. But I'll have to wait until I see my doctor in a couple weeks. And then yesterday I had an esophagram, which is looking at the esophagus, and I had to drink. It's like an X-ray, but it's like video X-ray. And they have you put a bunch of barium in your mouth, and then they tell you when to swallow, and they see how it goes down. It was nasty. And then they lay you on, they give you this crystal stuff, and they're like, whatever you do, don't burp. And so as soon as you drink it, all you want to do is burp. Well, then they lay me on my stomach, and I'm like, and I'm like, oh, I couldn't hold it in. You're laying me on my stomach. What am I supposed to do? Right. But at that point, I think she said it was fine. But I did get results back from that, which are concerning. But it might give me some answers. I have a laryngeal penetration, which does not sound like what you would think. But they saw some dysfunction in the swallowing. They saw some reduced motility. So like the strength of the esophagus was low. And then they also saw some spasms. So those contractions that I have every once in a while could be from the esophagus. So I don't know what it means. The doctor hasn't gotten back with me. That's just from the report. So it's been a hard week mentally, just having like some bad news coming in and all of that. But yep. But we do as we always do with chronic illness. We get through it and make a plan with the doctor on what comes next. But I do have to tell you one quick funny story, because I like embarrassing myself, I guess, but after the esophagram, you're drinking that barium, which is like a milkshake type bright white liquid. And she handed me a washcloth. So I wiped my mouth and left, and she was talking to me for a couple minutes afterwards. And I was so hungry, I stopped at a gas station and got a drink and a snack. And after I get back in the car from the gas station, I look in the rearview mirror, and my lips are completely white from the barium. So she didn't tell me. She didn't tell me that I still had barium all over my lips. And so I'm like,
did not give you
I look like I ate a bunch of powdered sugar donuts. It was ridiculous. But
that's
anyway,
too funny.
Anyway, I'm excited to talk about the holidays. How have your holidays changed dealing with chronic issues?
That's a good question, and it's one that I know I still tend to go a little more overboard with company. If we have people, if it's just Dave and I, we usually do pretty low key. We don't. I'll still make a nice dinner. On Christmas Day, I'll usually do like a prime rib roast, and mashed potato. I don't go all out with food because it's just the two of us, so I don't want a million leftover. We only eat so much leftovers before we get tired of them. But I think for me, it's just over the years I've come to the realization. I mean, we've always been good about, we don't buy gifts just for the sake of buying gifts because it's the holidays. So if there's nothing that either one of us like needs or truly wants, it's I have small traditions. Like the Christmas Eve jammies is always going to be a tradition for me. So I stick with the small traditions that mean a lot to me, but other than that, I don't stress out about gift buying.
Mm-hmm. That's good, because that's a big one for a lot of people. And for Thanksgiving, which I know we're recording this right before Thanksgiving, but my son, who's in the Air Force, we were able to move Thanksgiving to the weekend, and he's going to be able to come home for Thanksgiving. First time he's been home since 2020. And So I was talking to my aunt and she was like, well, you're not going to cook, are you? And I was like, well, it's the first time he's been home, yeah, Ed will help me, like we'll figure it out. And she actually gifted me, my aunt and uncle gifted us Thanksgiving dinner through Bob Evans and ordered a whole spread so that I literally don't have to make, but maybe an extra pie or something like that, which, those are a great option for people who want to have a lot of food and just don't have the energy to cook. So I was very thankful for that. We were invited to your mom's for Thanksgiving, and we had to think about it for a couple days. And we decided this year we had to make the decision that we had to stay put this year, which was a hard one because we love being able to see your family, but I haven't been doing very well with short distance trips. And I don't know if I'm going through a flare or what. I just haven't felt real well. And especially with Joey coming in, we just decided that we have to skip this year just to be able to kind of not overdo it. I don't want to be completely in bed, when we celebrate Thanksgiving and be so exhausted and everything. Yeah. So it's, making sacrifices, I know, can be a big one when you're dealing with chronic illness. So sometimes you've got to prioritize, things. And you talked about small traditions. We like to load up the car with the dogs and everybody and look at Christmas lights. And that's a fairly low energy tradition that we've done that's been fun for us.
I kind of like so as we go into the holiday season, and it's especially those of us that are used to doing so much, it's reforming or managing those expectations, not just from ourselves but the family expectations. How do you manage, or do you have tips on managing expectations from your family members?
It's hard because like your family is like, when Ed said, we're not going to be able to make it this year, they were very understanding. And your mom is like the greatest woman ever. And, she's always like, checking in on me and every time she calls and so I know they understand. If you're dealing with family that doesn't understand your illness, then it can be hard because making trips, even I think my mom's is like 45 minutes away, but even that is a lot. And I may have mentioned it on the podcast before, but I don't eat dinner. I can't eat that late. And so I know, like for my mom, she's having it at dinner time. And so it was like, okay, well, I have to be prepared that I'm not going to be able to eat. And if anybody asks, gosh, after 8 years, they should know that I don't eat dinner. But I guess just preparing for everything that comes with family. I think every family has, I don't want to say issues, but just different dynamics and just sticking to taking care of yourself first. And if that's leaving early, if that's missing part of the party or the dinner or whatever that might be, if it means going into the bedroom and taking 10 minutes of quiet time because there's so much noise, which sometimes that bothers me, of just prioritizing your health before anybody else, because nobody knows what you're feeling like. And if you are overstimulated or are stressed or are tired, make a plan in your head before to find a place that you can get away for a few minutes to recoup if you need that.
Yeah, that's so important. It made me, I think I mentioned on our last recording about having family here. Our grandson and
Yeah.
daughter and son-in-law were here for a couple weeks. And, we don't have a super big house. And so for me, it was, I had no escape pod, so to speak. Like all my escape areas of where I can go when the television is too loud and is bombarding me, and all my escape spaces were taken. Not that I'm complaining, but it does start to wear on you if you don't have a plan. And mine was also more of like I couldn't even hop in my car and go for a little hike in the woods because my back is bothering me so much. So things that I could have done that I normally would not have been able, or normally would have done to decompress, I'm not able to do right now. So, but definitely having that, even if it's, if you're visiting family and you have to go sit out in the car for 10 minutes.
Yeah. Well, we did post a question on Instagram about the holidays.
So the question was, with the holidays coming up, what advice do you have in getting through while dealing with chronic illness? So the nap cave said plenty of rest. So make sure you get plenty of rest during the holidays. KJ5 McCarthy said start early and space things out and fill your cup early.
That's great.
Yeah, which is good. Definitely good advice. Angela D0424 said less is more. Which I definitely over the years, like I said, have cut back on, not needing to go all out on everything. I don't need a bunch of presents. Yeah, I don't need a bunch of presents under the tree for people that is going to get donated to Goodwill like 6 months later anyway. And then our friend Stephen Chiari Warrior said make the best out of it.
Great. I love all those. The Runcible Spoonie, who was on our season 1, I feel like her episode was maybe episode 4, Christy. She gave me a list of great ideas that I wanted to share. She said, incorporate holiday activities into any sort of physical health routine. So if you're putting up the tree, use that as kind of your physical therapy or your movement of your body. Don't be afraid to turn off Christmas. I love that because it can get very overwhelming. Turn off the Christmas music, turn off the movies, and just try and get some time. If you're getting overwhelmed, try and take time. She recommended watching It's a Wonderful Life. She said it's a movie with a disabled lead. He's got no hearing in one ear, and learning why life matters just as he's contemplating taking his life. No message is greater than that of your life matters. I watched that for the first time last year. I hadn't actually ever gotten through the movie, so it's a great movie. She said, make a nap time routine around festivities. And she also said to wear at least one festive item, even if it's just nail polish. Every little thing counts. So some great advice from everyone. And you mentioned Kimberly, KJ5 McCarthy, fill your cup early. That's great advice. And that just thinking that if you plan your activities and let's say you've got to make a bunch of food, spacing it out and making the mashed potatoes a day early and then just reheating them, or making cookies throughout the week, whatever that might be, but to fill your cup early and make sure that you're mentally and physically ready to do what you plan on doing. And if you're not physically and mentally ready, then adjusting as needed. While you're on your phone, come on, I know it's in your hand. Head on over to Spoonful of Strength's Etsy shop at spoonfulofstrength.etsy.com. That's spoonful with 2 L's. We have a wide variety of t-shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies, mugs, and so much more. Anything in the shop can be customized based on your illness. We have sizes from extra small to 5X and many colors to choose from. The best part is most items ship within 2 business days. So head on over to spoonfulofstrength.etsy.com. Also, I know you mentioned you don't do a lot of gifting, but what are some great gift ideas if you are purchasing a gift for somebody with chronic illness?
Oh gosh, there's so many of them out there, and of course, each person is individually, they're different. So reaching out and finding, asking that person, what do you need? For some, a heated blanket. I mean, heated blanket are great. Heated wraps. Like Walmart, I had picked up a couple I picked them up for my dogs because we were at an event that we had to crate out of a car. But you can get battery operated heated wraps now. So it makes a great gift for those that have a lot of aches and pains where the heat gives them, comfort and helps with those, the sore bodies, and it's mobile. You don't have to, you don't, they don't have to be near an outlet. They just have to keep their battery charged up. Weighted blankets, gift certificates for a massage, gift certificates for restaurants or DoorDash or Grubhub or something like that. What are your thoughts on some great gifts?
Well, first, I'm going to say that Spoonful of Strength has a great Etsy shop with a lot of great mugs and T-shirts and some great gift ideas. But I love everything that you said, especially gift cards, because I think it was last night I was having a lot of issues from the esophagram I had, and Ed called me on the way home, and usually we talk about what am I going to make for dinner and all of that. And he's like, you don't sound like you're wanting to make dinner. And I'm like, I really don't feel good. And so he had to pick up food on the way home. And so gift cards are great for those nights that you just don't feel like dealing with dinner, whether it be from chronic illness or fatigue or whatever. And it doesn't necessarily even have to be a gift. I think a great gift idea is to call up that person and say, for Christmas this year, I'm going to give you me for a day. I can run errands for you. I can cook you dinner. I can take you out. Anything that might be helpful. I can do your laundry, and giving the gift of time, because sometimes really those small things that you hate doing, like laundry and cleaning, those can be the most wonderful gifts because you're giving them back energy and taking away some fatigue. So yeah, that would be a great gift as well.
Absolutely. I was just getting ready to circle back to that, and you beat me to it, of, just your gift of time of, because when you suffer with chronic illness, or even with my being out of commission with my back, it drives me. I look at my house and I'm like, I need to wash the floors. I need to scrub the bathroom. I need to do this. I need to do that. And I physically can't do it. So, a couple hours of your time coming and doing those, the little deep cleaning things that you don't do on a daily basis is more valuable than anything that you could go out and buy.
Yeah. I think, I guess to wrap this all up, I think just a couple things that we talked about is just making a plan if you are going out of the house, and having a plan if you get tired, or having an exit strategy, so to speak, and setting realistic goals for your family. And I think it can vary from year to year. I think this year for me is going to be a lot less physical, and I need to set, more realistic goals for the holiday.
Right. And the important thing to remember is that you're not obligated to anybody but yourself.
That's good, because especially if you have family that don't understand maybe your chronic illness, there can be a lot of stress on, well, if I say I'm not coming, it's because, they'll think it's because I don't want to come, or this or that, and it can cause issues. And just being as honest as possible and really putting yourself first. Ed always tells me, why do you make so much food? Like, why do you have to make 10 different things? You know, for a normal dinner, you would have a meat and a side and that's
Right.
it. Why do you have to create all of this? And Christmas is going to look a little different this year. We've wonderfully been gifted Thanksgiving meal, but that might be something that we may do for Christmas as well, just to take that off our plate. So you just being honest and not pushing yourself, I think, is the biggest thing, because you don't want to start the new year in a flare because you've overdone it for the holidays.
For the
So
holidays. Holidays are supposed to be an enjoyable time, and if you're overdoing it, you're not going to enjoy it.
yeah,
And like you said, it's okay to take those shortcuts of, I used to make everything from scratch for those holiday meals, and now I buy the Bob Evans mashed potatoes. I buy, an already made pie versus making one from scratch, and and it's nobody complains that I'm not making homemade stuff.
Yeah. Yep. It really is more about the time and being with family than it is the little things that they won't remember, 20 years from now.
We talked all things holiday. Next up, we are welcoming in Kimberly, and she is going to share with us her journey with ankylosing spondylitis. So thank you so much for joining us today, Kimberly. And you are here to share your journey with, and I'm probably going to still, even though I practiced it, I'm probably going to butcher it, ankylosing spondylitis.
That is perfect. You can say AS for short. Yeah. There's AS, there's MS, there's all those kinds. You can say AS for short.
AS. Okay. Yeah. So why don't you share a little bit about yourself with our listeners?
So by career, I am a registered nurse. I am a mother of four. I've been married 36 years. I didn't start out nursing school right out of high school. Well, I did, but then went back after kid number three. And so started nursing a little bit later, but I've been doing that since 2002. Unfortunately, I'm still not doing it bedside due to the ankylosing spondylitis, because I had an abrupt rupture of Achilles tendon. So that took me to working from home, but back working as a nurse from home.
Good.
Wonderful that you've been able to find an outlet still within nursing that it works for you with your chronic illness. So
Right.
I'm glad that you were able to find that.
I thought home health was going to be that, but turned out that wasn't going to be it, because at first my rheumatologist was excited that I went back into nursing, but then she said, "Can you please quit?" I was like, "Well, you're not going to pay my bills, so I have to find something." So I found something to work with home, because she was like, "You're stressing the body too much. I don't want to change the medications." But I'm from Maryland. I'm a Maryland
You're
girl.
from Maryland?
I'm from Maryland. Born in
where in Maryland are you at?
Well, I'm from Maryland. I was raised in Maryland. Currently, I'm in South Carolina because that puts me close to my kids and grandkids. But I'm from Maryland originally. I'm a PG County girl.
Oh, okay. I'm up in Anne Arundel County. I'm over in Pasadena.
Well, we lived on Kent Island the last few years. I was raised PG County, but the last 13 years we lived on the East Kent Island, and I worked at AAMC.
I know that you had some issues growing up with some pain issues, but walk us through kind of your health history of when everything started and how it led you to the diagnosis of AS.
Well, hindsight's 2020, so it all makes sense now, but I couldn't make sense of it, growing up and even into my adulthood, because I wasn't diagnosed till I was 48. And the diagnosis took me back to my primary care crying because I said, I can't figure out what this, what's going on, what this is, where all this, pain is coming from. And I had so many years of Achilles tendonitis that I would be in a boot. I would do CPR on my toes and then end up in a boot. I would do something that would end up in a boot, and the boot causes the AS not to be so happy, the back not to be so happy, and things like that. So it was just a circle of things of, going to the doctors, going to ortho, going to therapy, finding this, getting injections, feeling like I was falling apart. And then finally, a nurse practitioner at the primary care, even though she said, "You've been to specialists." I said, "I understand," but the specialist, told me, "Oh, nope, that's not it. This isn't it." So then I ended up getting a MRI that showed bilateral sacroiliitis, did some blood work that showed that I was positive HLA-B27, and a whole bunch of other years of symptoms, and led to the ankylosing spondylitis diagnosis.
And can you tell us and tell our listeners what AS is?
So if by history it's called bamboo spine, if they want to look at the history, but it's a lot more than that. It affects you from head to toe. People have been diagnosed for ankylosing spondylitis from having uveitis. So in other words, they had inflammation in the eye, and that caused them to be diagnosed with ankylosing spondylitis because it is a symptom, it is a sign. The problem is a lot of people that have it end up getting fused. Their spinal column fuses at certain spots. And sometimes that even takes them out of pain. But it's a lot more than that. It includes, where I have a big problem, is enthesitis at the heels. That is where the Achilles ruptured. It separated from the heel, really. It wasn't like a traumatic injury. It just finally separated from my heel. That's a symptom. Costochondritis, where it is inflammation in between the rib cage. Sacroiliitis was the SI joints in your hips. Those were inflamed, and that is a sign. So it affects so many areas in the body that's why I'm frustrated by just that definition. Bamboo spine is that it fuses together, but it affects you from head to toe. So the body is inflamed. It's an inflammatory arthritis. There's the arguments of, is it autoimmune? No, it's called autoinflammatory. Depends on who you listen to. All I know is it hurts.
You mentioned bilateral sacroiliitis?
Sacroiliitis. So you have
Sacroiliitis.
you have sacroiliac joints in the hips, and those were inflamed. And usually they are not inflamed bilaterally, meaning the two of them at once. Right. So that was a sign that the inflammation. Inflammatory markers, blood work can define it too. Now, there are some people that have been diagnosed with ankylosing spondylitis that are not positive for HLA-B27, a marker in the blood. So that is not always a marker for people. There's so many that have it with so many different symptoms. And of course, people have multiple conditions at once. Is it all caused by ankylosing spondylitis? Don't know. But the inflammatory markers are the part that you try to get slowed down, and the progression of the disease. So that's where biologics come into play, where they want you to take biologics to slow down the progression. They don't necessarily help all the, the pain in your day to day, but the idea is to slow them down. There's people with AS out there that have gone from wheelchair to climbing mountains, and to people that have AS that do things like the Ninja Warrior shows, or some of the shows out there that, you put you to your limits and your physical. So there's all kinds of different levels out there.
It sounds similar to MS, which is like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but is it something to where like everybody's story is different, everybody reacts differently and is affected differently?
Yeah, absolutely. That's where, some people aren't in pain with ankylosing spondylitis because they have fused. That's why I think one of my areas is a lot of tendon trouble. I'm trying to put the puzzle together a little bit myself, because unfortunately I left that good rheumatologist in, Maryland, and the last rheumatologist I had just told me, I don't have a magic pill. And I'm like, well, I didn't ask for one. But
Yeah.
that's where it's finding a great doctor that you can have a good rapport with and that respects you and converses with you. I always say that communication is, the most important part of any relationship, and that includes your, relationship with your doctor too.
Mhm.
So it's really hard.
Um, I was reviewing what you had sent over to us before, and there's a lot of other things that have come about, as you're going through all of the like your surgeries and things like that. You mentioned the idiopathic small nerve fibroneuropathy, your foot issues, and just a lot of different things that I'm assuming are like they're either tied to AS, or it could possibly be some of the side effects of some of the biologics that you were on, correct?
Good question, because if it may not be because of the biologics, but it definitely probably sped up the, severity of it. So when I was working bedside nursing, I would feel, this numbness in my toes and this, pain in the toes. I'm like, what is this? Hopefully it's not neuropathy, is it MS? I'm like trying to figure out, all the things. And so after my Achilles ruptured and I was trying to do physical therapy, trying to get back to nursing, I thought I was going to just return a few weeks later. And everything sped up. The neuropathy sped up. So they did a biopsy that diagnosed small nerve fiber neuropathy. So that was, it's like, which was first? I really don't know. And nobody, is giving me the answers because they're, it would be a guess. And they're telling me it would be a guess. But so the symptom, a lot of the symptoms were from, like, I had tendonitis back in fourth grade. I was in the hospital in traction for my back in high school. The doctors just didn't put pieces of the puzzle together. So my neck is straight as an arrow, but even though you're supposed to have curvature, nobody thought much of, that either. The question is, did my mom have ankylosing spondylitis? Don't know, but she had 13 back operations with complications. So did they miss it, with her, and then try to fix everything surgically, and it didn't work. And then all those surgeries, but she passed of a brain aneurysm like at 57. So it's like, who knows? So, well, never know now, but possibly. And she was adopted. So looking further back, can't do that. But it's just interesting, trying to put it all together. Symptoms of every time I tried to like accelerate my exercise, try to improve weight loss, try to do everything, I would injure something. And it was just repeat, repeat, repeat. I kept injuring something every time. And that's where when I got to the rheumatologist, she's like, you've been through all this stuff. I think it's just been undiagnosed this long.
Join Spoonful of Strength on Instagram, a community open to everyone. Whether you have a chronic illness or support someone who does, you are welcome at Spoonful of Strength. You'll get preview clips of the upcoming episodes and insight into my world as a spoonie. That's Spoonful of Strength, spoonful with 2 L's, on Instagram. Is it normally diagnosed at a younger age, or is it normally adult onset?
There are a lot of younger ones that are diagnosed with it. But unless you're having somebody that is actively looking for it, yes, it is missed. So of course, when you try to learn from, a community, and by listening to others in the AS community, then they were diagnosed later in life. If they had a family member that, had it, they may get looked at earlier.
Yeah.
It just depends. But yes, there's a popular question that goes out onto like the AS support sites, when were you diagnosed? Is it, late? So everybody just thinks it's like one injury instead of, what is the source? It's like you're treating something, but you're not going back and finding the source. So I think that's a big problem that we have.
Do you feel, being a nurse, already being in the medical field, do you feel like you were maybe more proactive than others as far as trying to put those pieces together of going, okay, this is, I've got this going on, I got this going on, I got this going on. What is the underlying?
But just like everybody else, you need doctor to do those orders of diagnostics when it comes to the MRI, the CT, everything. Even the day that I ruptured my Achilles, I was cleaning house. Don't ever do that because you can get hurt doing that. I tripped over a box. And that is not what ruptured the Achilles, but in other words, I moved in such a way that it tore the rest of the way because I already had a tear that we knew from previous MRIs. But it was Memorial Day, and at the hospital I worked at, if you call out on a holiday, you can get suspended. So I went to the ER because I was like, okay, I need to get notification. Hey, I can't be walking on this foot and everything. So I went, and they just thought it was a sprain. And they wouldn't do a CT scan or an MRI. They said, no, I don't think that's it. And that was a lot of things. Were treated that way by, many doctors. When it came to the sacroiliitis in my hips, the ortho doctor said, no, the pain's too high. So even though I think it may be something, I'm like, or can we check it out? I'm not trying to diagnose myself, but can we look into it? You have to have doctor's orders, and that's, a hard part. So I left the emergency room the day on the Memorial Day that I ruptured the Achilles. And then after I was already off that week, so it was just that holiday I had to work because my daughter was graduating. And so I was preparing for a graduation party. I called the rheumatologist and I said, can I get an MRI? And she called in an MRI, and she called me back while I was in the middle of Sam's Club trying to prepare for this graduation party. And she says, you're right, you ruptured the Achilles. So, put myself in a boot until I could get a new ortho appointment, because that's the only surgery I've ever had is that Achilles, surgery. So that's the only thing I've ever had to have treated that way, because I'm not in a hurry to get any surgery after watching my mom year after year. I'm not in a hurry to get any surgeries, but the Achilles finally, ruptured, and that's how we got that diagnosed. And it was great because you need doctors that actually listen. It was a brand new doctor that I went to for the Achilles, and he said, I need to talk to your rheumatologist to see the best plan of care. That's a good doctor that's going to do that.
Sounds like a lot of the struggles that you had in getting the diagnosis, we've heard over and over. And it's so frustrating when something's wrong and you're not getting the answers and you're not getting the tests that you need to actually find out what's going on. How did your mental aspect or your mental health, how was that going through the diagnostic journey?
I was worried about, the future, of course, and how far that was going to take me. Was I going to, end up, how fast was that going to disable me? Because when a doctor said back in high school that, this is rheumatoid arthritis. And I'm like, no, I'm not already disabled or crippled enough to have that be. I said, I don't think that's it. And it wasn't it. So it's hard to try to figure out what was causing it every day, that I couldn't move where I wanted to, how I wanted to. Things were hard. I was trying to watch, why are all these nurses on the floor able to stand and chart at their computers? Because we have mobile computers going around room to room. Why can they stand there and chart, and why can I not do it? Why am I in so much pain that I can't do it? So when I would go in to do things with, a patient, I would need to sit down so I could focus on the patient. Now, I had some old school nurses as instructors in college, and they always said, get eye to eye with your patient. And also, I thought I was actually doing what I was supposed to also. But then I realized I was trying to get myself out of pain by sitting down so I could focus enough on the patient and give them everything I had. And it just makes sense. When I went to vote the other day, I actually asked for a chair because I'm like, that's how I can think better, is because I need to bring the pain level down some so I can think. So it's, always trying to keep up and trying to give all, but it is a mental drain on everything because the pain steals so much that your dealing power every day you have to build up your dealing power. You have to work on getting the good sleep. You have to work on the vitamins, have to work on getting, you're facing some sunlight, getting the exercise, putting it all together. And if you, need to watch a chick flick and cry and get all that stress out, then that's what you do. And you do what you have to do for your, mental health every day. And that's what you just need to do. It is frustrating. I miss being where I was. It is that grief of where you were, and I'm not where I was. I always used to tell the doctors, can you get me to running to a code? So in other words, when someone needed CPR, I needed to be able to run to that. So in other words, I had to get things fixed, shots in the knees, do whatever I had to do to get to the code. Now I'm like, can I just keep up with my grandkids? Or I can't keep up with my grandkids. They're faster than I am. But in other words, I want to be able to, play with them and, do it the way I can with them. So it's modified, everything. It's hard. You wonder about how people look at you. You wonder about how people think of you. You want to be still that best for your family. So it affects your mental health in everything.
Yeah. That's definitely one thing that we talk a lot about is the mental aspect of that. Tell us about sounds like you're very strong or very close with your family. So is that a strong support system for you?
They're frustrated. They can't fix everything.
Yeah.
So they're fixers. My husband is awesome. My daughter had moved in right after my Achilles rupture because we were in a 3-level townhouse that I couldn't, manage at the moment. But then, after I healed and was able to do, stuff on my own, after I was, weight bearing where I could walk on both feet, I had to tell her, I said, thank you for moving in, but you need to go live your life. Come back when I'm 85. In other words, you need to go live your life. So, they asked us to come live closer to them, but not only because of me, because my husband had some heart issues. And I'm like, you guys are too far away, because we had moved from Maryland out of that 3-level townhouse to Texas. We had a daughter going to college in Texas, and we thought, okay, my husband loves Texas, wanted to go check it out. But the kids asked us to move closer, and I'm a travel agent and wanted to travel more. And I want to build that business and things, and I need that energy to do that. And I didn't want to always be traveling to just get to the family. So it's great that they're nearby now. So they're always wanting to, hey, what can I do for you? They always want to go the extra mile. They're all fixers, and they all want to make it all go away. So they are great. My youngest daughter, actually, she's trying to get into med school and wrote a paper on ankylosing spondylitis and the effects of NSAIDs with it and all. So they're great. They're great.
I can see it in your eyes, just how much they mean to you, and you have a son in the Marines, and we are recording this on Veterans Day. So please thank him for his service. And I have a son in the Air Force, so I know what it's like to
my
be
son-in-law. He just came back. So, they just got back last night from Japan.
It's a big part of the military service, and and being there for the military service members. And we've done a lot with the Naval Academy because my son went through the Naval Academy. And then when we were in Maryland, sponsoring other mids was just making our family grow. And so it's awesome. So that's, we went to a couple of their weddings, and, they're having kids now too, the ones we sponsored. So just being being a part of our lives, and some of our kids grew up with them too, as they were in our house, and it was fun. It was a great time, and that was, as I said, one of the two things I really, really miss about Maryland is the sponsoring and being by the Naval Academy and my rheumatologist. So
Yeah.
it did. So yeah, my Marine son, and military families, go through a lot. My daughter-in-law is awesome too, and our 3 grandkids. So they're great. And then I have an older daughter, and then her and my younger son actually are roommates. And so they're supporting each other. And then my daughter's back in Texas waiting to hear about applications for med school. So they are awesome.
That's wonderful.
Yeah,
That's great.
my grandson's like, Grandma, why are you in a boot? Because I'm trying to keep up with them. So I'm like, it's the best way that I can keep up with you. I said, well, Grandma's bones are falling apart. I'm like, I know that they want a literal answer to know what's going on too. So I'm still working on trying to get that best explanation to them.
Right.
Because they're such thinkers. They're so intelligent. All those kids are so intelligent, and trying to come up with the right answer for them is hard.
Yeah. Can you leave our listeners with one piece of advice for somebody that's going through, it doesn't have to be AS, but going through that road of trying to find the answers and feeling like they're hitting dead ends? What's something that either helped you or any advice that you could give to somebody going through that?
I hate to say it, but I even tell members this every day for, work. I tell them, I said, you need to be able to communicate with your doctor. And I'm not telling everybody to change doctors all the time, fish. But you do need to, try to get a recommendation to have somebody that will work with you. Don't give up on yourself. That's what I said. I ended up going back to the primary and say, help me. I said, this something is, wrong, that I'm having trouble, day by day. So just don't give up on, don't give up on yourself. Don't give up on things that may work for you, and not somebody else, or doesn't work for somebody else, but may work for you. You don't know. Some people can just manage this on, diet, and, every once in a while have a flare. If it's more difficult for you, chin up. Everybody has, difficult times. So, and everybody goes through this. I'm watching younger people and have to realize, well, I've already beat up my body because I'm already, 55. So I've, beat up my body a lot in other ways too. So you do what you have to do. Dealing power, as I said, everything is going to look horrible if you can't try to get sleep. Getting sleep to help physically and mentally is going to be a huge deal. I have found that out over the years. If whatever tools that you need, don't be ashamed to use them. If you need the walker, if you need the wheelchair, I take ice packs with me everywhere, because, I just, can't. I'm trying to bring the pain level down so I can enjoy life the most. So you have to know that you may have one good day, one bad day, and you don't know when those are going to come, and be real with those. But be your best advocate. Try to learn and try to understand and ask why. I'll talk to patients every day, and they don't know why they're on medications. They don't know what they're going to, what they're for. At least learn about what you have to take and what it's doing for you. Don't take it just because, don't take this wrong way. Don't take it just because the doctor said so. Make sure it's working for you. And I have said about, especially, when people are taking mental health medications, it's like, is it working for you? If it's not, go back to the doctor and say, I need, something else, journal your symptoms, figure that out. I've worked with some coaches before, and journaling does help. I'm terrible at it. I'll admit that. But I think that it at the time when I did it, when I was really trying to figure stuff out, it you learn something from it. You may be bad at it. I'm terrible at journaling. I keep telling myself I'm going to get better. Just to even write things down for, grandkids. But it truly does help. It really does help. But adjust from that old self, that old physical self, what you could do, and learn to love the new self. When it comes, it's not just body image, it's physical. It's what I can do. Some days I may be using a cart in the store. Some days I may be using a scooter, depending on what days my body's going to work better. I can't tell. I can't change it. Roll with me, roll with me. I was looking through, the Etsy shop with Spoonful of Strengths, Etsy shop this stuff. And, so many of the, sayings on the shirts are great. And the humor that I see people put out there for chronic illness, it's like, keep your joy, find your joy, what you have to do. Change what you can change, and what you can't, try to find a good medicine for, and try to, physical therapy, aqua therapy, working with your doctor. Don't ignore, you can't fix what you can't, what you don't know about. So it's hard to bundle it into a little box, but it's interesting to learn what other people are going through, and find your support system. And everybody wants to make everything right, and you've just got to, it's a learning process. It's like you grow every day to figure out, what's new. And wisdom. May not have all the wisdom. It's just learn to give yourself some, learn to give yourself some grace. How do you do that? It's hard, because I keep having this feeling I'm better than what I'm doing. In other words, I've done faster work. The pain affects, my work. So in other words, everything that, I'm dealing with, is it the neuropathy, or is it the AS, or is it me just, is it just arthritis? It's hard. It's hard to know what to do. You can't just put it on a shelf and get back to it later. And so it's hard. So you have to give yourself grace from everything that you're doing. Don't, overdo it, because you'll pay for it. But still try to realize that there is life to enjoy out there.
Great. So many good pieces of advice. I think that was so many good things.
I think one of the most important ones that's really stick with me is finding your joy. So, it's just, it's easy to get into that mindset of, oh, I've lost all of this because of my illness. But there's just still so much more joy out there to still find. So
yeah, it's like I have a need for speed, and I'm like, I look at others, hiking through mountains and things like that, and then I look and see, oh, there's this, wheelchair type, four-wheeler type thing that you could go out there and do that. And I showed that to my hiking, my son, who likes hiking through, a lot of the mountains, like out in Utah and Denver and stuff. And I'm like, look at this. I'm like, okay, I may not be able to walk it or hike it, but we can, I said, there's a way to experience it. Yeah, that's the way to, experience it.
There's still good moments to be had, even though we've got so much on our plates. So just wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yes.
I really learned quite a bit, and you're just a wonderful human being, and so glad that we were able to have a chance to talk with you today.
Well, ladies, thank you for the opportunity.
Take care of yourself.
Take care. Bye-bye.
That was great having Kimberly come on. I wasn't familiar with AS, so it's interesting. Before having her on here, I didn't really know a lot of. I had never even heard of AS. Have you, Rachel? Until she had reached out.
I guess now that I think about it, I may have heard about it, but not even knowing what body part it affects. But it's always nice to talk about something that I haven't heard of before, just to kind of learn more about the different chronic illnesses that we have. And Kimberly was wonderful. I think we could have probably talked to her for an hour easily, but
oh, I know. Yeah. So next week's episode, we are talking about men's chronic illness. We have Stephen, our Kiari warrior, he joined us during season 1, and he has been a great supporter of our podcast ever since. I know, Rachel, you've developed a good friendship, I feel, with him through Instagram. So he's coming back on to talk about chronic illness from the men's standpoint, and Abe, and he is a mental health counselor, and he'll talk and share about he's neurodivergent, and he struggles with mental illness. So he's going to join us and talk about the work that he does, while also how he maneuvers through his illness as well. So looking forward to having both of them join us next week.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
Yeah. So thank you so much for joining us this week. We will talk to you next Tuesday. Have a wonderful rest of your week.